What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Hopefully everyone is having a great day, a beautiful week. Staying cool, keeping that AC pumping. I know I just paid my AC bill. Thing is not low, but you don't have a choice when it's 145 degrees outside. Luckily, we're here to talk some football, and the NFL business is a booming. So we had some guys get paid today. Sauce Gardner, the Jets go back-to-back. The new administration pay their highly drafted corner, former All-Pro. The Kansas City Chiefs pay their Pro Bowl guard, Trey Smith. So we got money flowing, but there is a guy named Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry in Washington, who is not happy with his current situation. And I think after we've seen some money get given out at that position, Scary Terry wants a lot of money. So we'll discuss some of that and a funny story that I saw in regards to the Bengals. But a lot of football stuff going on right now. I cannot complain. We're getting some breaking news, some stories coming down the pike in the middle of July before even most rookies have reported to training camp. I am happy. So we will discuss this coming up. But before we do, I got to tell you about my friends. I got to tell you about my partners, the official ticketing app of this podcast, Gametime, best in the business. Cannot recommend them enough. Download that app. And I'm telling you, what do you want to do? Do you want to go? The All-Star game actually is happening as I speak, recording this podcast a little bit later. But anything you want to do. Do you want to go to a playoff baseball game? Do you want to go to the World Series? Do you want to go to a football game this fall? Do you want to go to a concert? Do you want to go enjoy yourself on a night out? Get out of the house. Go do something fun. Sometimes in this country, we just, as Rihanna once famously said, work, 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 work. It's all we do. And listen, I'm guilty of this too. It's like, I need to have a night out on the town. Take my beautiful wife. You can take a buddy. Have yourself some fun and do it on us, because take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code JOHN, J-O-H-N, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Before we dive into Sauce Gardner and Trey Smith and Terry McLaurin, I do just want to take an overall view. There was a story that broke within the last couple weeks by the Big J's. Pablo, Torre, Mike Florio, and they were riding for it hard. The NFL is colluding against its players, and it had no traction. No one cared. And the two guys they talked about, the one leading guy was Kyler Murray. And I looked today that Kyler Murray, at the end of this season, will have made $170 million playing in the NFL. Justin Herbert was another guy that was used in this story. Colluded, keeping his wages down. He's 27 years old. At the end of this season, he will have made $155 million. I bet when it's all said and done, both guys will combine for way more than $500 million playing in the NFL. There has never been a better time to be involved in the business of football. Hell, where I am sitting right now, I worked in the NFL for 3 years and have parlayed a career talking about the sport that has put me in a position that I couldn't have dreamed of in basically any other industry. I think about it a lot with the media. Think about one of the biggest media stars right now, Pat McAfee, was a punter. Signs for hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 4 or 5 years with multiple companies. The New Heights podcast with Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce just signed a contract for $100 million. It's a podcast they do once a week. Pardon my take, the biggest sports podcast, let's be real, started out and is still mainly a football show. The guy I work for, Colin Coward, who's arguably the biggest guy in the business, what is he really known for? Talking about football. Obviously, if you're involved as an owner, as a player, as a coach, as a GM, do you know I've known multiple GMs who bought second properties, as in like lake houses or property in Florida that would been reserved 10, 20, 30 years ago for stuff the owners would have done, maybe the superstar coach in 2005 or 2000 because they were the guys only making big time money. Now everyone is cashing in. We see guards in the NFL now signing for more guaranteed money than some wide receivers. Trey Smith, a year after Brandon Ayuk got $75 million, essentially got the same thing. He plays guard. So it is crazy, and I've said this forever. Football's not going to stay on top forever. That's not the way the world works. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care how good the times are. It does not last forever. Now, that could be a 50-year run, a 100-year run, a 25-year run. I don't know. But right now, it doesn't get any better. The game has never been more popular. We have never had more people watching. College football now with this playoffs, I mean, the ratings on the college football games in the regular season last year hit like historic highs. So the minor leagues, which is what that sport is for the NFL, obviously the draft has never been more consumed. There's never been a better time to be interested in this sport, to be involved in this sport. Obviously, if you're talented enough to play in the sport, economically, it's not even close. And I feel very fortunate that as a kid, I fell in love with football. And as a guy who was terrible when he actually played in high school, I loved it. And I loved everything about it. And for the last 20 years, once my high school career ended, I have thought about it basically every day of my life and been lucky enough to be involved with it. And even as I left it, to stay involved with it. And it is insane how far it's come and where it's going. Like at this rate, I don't even know. So I'm not surprised when those guys tried to break this story about collusion. Everyone with a brain basically just said, isn't that kind of business? And I don't really see anyone getting screwed here. And the business is absolutely booming. So listen, I guys like Sauce Gardner and Trey Smith, I would imagine they got big smiles on their faces today. So let's talk about Sauce Gardner, who had a rough year last year. And I've talked about it, that as I was told by a guy who was pretty close to the situation, that just said, listen, and Jets fans know this, they started officiating him a little bit differently, and it did not go his way. And let's be real about him as a player. His skill set, like Derek Stingley, who got more guaranteed money than Sauce Gardner. Some places, Schefter originally tweeted he got $60 million. Then later it came out $85 million. Regardless, he got a lot of money, not as much as Stingley in terms of guarantees, but he got paid a lot for a new staff coming in off a rough season. Now, he was drafted really high, and he's achieved, in terms of individual success, a lot so far in a short period of time. But certain players, like Darrelle Revis, or now Stingley, or Patrick Surtain, while prime, I wouldn't call him Richard Sherman as a tackler. In terms of playing on, playing off, he could do anything because his athleticism was beyond elite. And typically the best corners are the best athlete on the field in terms of change of direction, in terms of speed, in terms of stop and start, in terms of recovery speed, in terms of explosion, because they don't know what's coming. Yet they follow the guy who's typically the best athlete on offense everywhere. And the best ones don't allow any space between the other guy. So that is not Sauce. He is not some 4-3 guy. He is not Mr. Deion Sanders in a short area, changing direction and exploding. He is a guy who is going to be, his success is going to be predicated on being physical, right? That is going to be his thing. That was Richard Sherman's thing. But the thing Richard has is Richard tackled like he was a middle linebacker. He's one of the greatest tackling big corners you'll ever see. Jalen Ramsey was kind of unique because, like Richard, especially early on in his career, he would hit, but he was also a great athlete. So in terms of change of direction and just explosion, he was pretty special. Sauce is going to get in you and attack you at the line of scrimmage. And to me, depending on how they're officiating, that can be kind of risky to invest in a player like this. But the one reason I'm okay with buying into this, because I thought, pretty bold move. It's one thing to invest in Garrett Wilson. He's proven he can produce with anyone at quarterback, any idiot calling the plays, and he's just a special talent. Sauce, to me, is like pretty scheme dependent. Well, their head coach, former corner, former DB coach, former defensive coordinator. So that is his area of expertise. And if he believes in him, because Sauce has been open this offseason, like they've been hard on me, they've been in me, they think there's more there. Now, part of investing in Sauce, even as Aaron Glenn, who's a DB guy, is like, are you comfortable doing this? There are some variables a little bit that's out of your control. Like they want to put that yellow flag out of their pocket and throw it on the ground. Nothing you can do. So I think there's risk involved in this. But if you told me this was an offensive head coach who just got this job, I'd be like, I don't know if I love it. When I see Aaron Glenn, who played in the NFL for a long, long time, who has proven to be not just an excellent DB coach, but an excellent defensive mind, totally understand it. And like a little bit of a tip in the cap for Joe Douglas. I mean, two guys that he drafted really high. The new administration comes in and immediately gives, if you don't factor in the guaranteed money, well over $200 million to two players. So ultimately, that's what you want when you draft really high, right? You want to get a guy that you are comfortable with giving a ton of money for a second contract. And that's what the Jets just did, even though their head coach and GM had nothing to do with drafting these guys. Now, you could easily counter me and go, Middlekauff. It's fucking Garrett Wilson. Your mom could have drafted him. It was Sauce Gardner, who was widely considered a top 5 lock in most drafts. I'm like, yeah, I hear you. But still, we see a lot of high draft picks, new coaches, new GMs go, yeah, I want to invest in my own guy. And that wasn't the case. And I always give coaches that come into a situation that's been pretty ugly. And I know these guys have had individual success, but from a team standpoint, it wasn't pretty with the Jets. And believe in the player. Because I think it's easy to come in and paint most guys with a negative brush. Like, this isn't my guy. This isn't my guy. Can we trade this guy and get a lot back? And they didn't do that. They did that with Rodgers. But in terms of their young assets, listen, if you would have told me they traded Sauce Gardner this offseason for, a first-round pick and 2 2s or something, I'd be like, listen, it's the NFL. New administration, new ideas, maybe not an ideal scheme fit. Maybe they think they can do more with other positions. I would have understood it. But that is not the tactic that Glenn and his GM took. So if you're a Jets fan and you bought those jerseys a couple years ago, because, listen, I've seen it before. I've seen Khalil Mack. I've seen Khalil Mack be Defensive Player of the Year, John Gruden get there and trade him before training camp. A lot of Khalil Mack jerseys were sold with Oakland Raider fans. Hell, just around the NFL. And then, boom, he's on the Bears. So you can never say never. God, I'm fired up. The British Open is here. The biggest names in golf teeing it up across the pond to chase history, the game's original major. Want to make some cash while watching people play golf? You can by betting on the action at Royal Portrush with DraftKings Sportsbook. From the opening round through Championship Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with live betting, player props, and so much more. If you've never bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple like a golfer to win the tournament. Rory McIlroy. Can he win his second major of the year? This is where he grew up. Last time it did not go well. He missed the cut. I do think Rory's going to be a major factor. John Rahm playing really well. Scotty Scheffler. Can he finally break through? You can also bet top 10s, top 20s, parlay them together. Does not get any easier. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. The other guy is Trey Smith. And I think one dramatic shift that I've seen in the NFL since I got out of it and have been looking at it from this view is the importance of guards. I would say, center, because of the communication, because of their ties with the quarterback, I would say has always been viewed as a very important position outside your tackles. Most, obviously, offensive line coaches value all 5 positions, but I'm saying most head coaches, from a big picture view, value their center a lot. I think guards, depending on the coach, depending on the quarterback, have always been viewed very, very differently. If you remember Sean Payton and the Saints in their heyday really valued that position. because Drew Brees was smaller and they wanted to protect the inside because that's how he stepped into the throw to pass. I've seen Tom Brady and Peyton Manning make Super Bowl runs with random undrafted free agents playing that position. When I first got in the NFL in 2010, we're talking by this fall, that'd be 15 years ago. There was a small handful of guys that you went, that guy's a really good pass rusher inside the Garden Center. So either playing defensive tackle, nose tackle, lining up somewhere that wasn't considered an outside rusher. They didn't really exist. I would say over the last decade, they are everywhere. There used to be the occasional like J.J. Watt, a guy that could line up multiple positions, but just a true, I'm Aaron Donald, I'm Jalen Carter, I'm Chris Jones, I'm Buckner. I'm just one of these guys who's going to line up over the guard's face, over the shade of the center, and I am fucking coming at that ass. They are everywhere now. So the power of a guard, you have seen their money fly. I mean, the amount of guards right now making $15+ million is pretty nuts. If I would have told some guys 20, 30 years ago that guard was going to be treated, I would say as good of, if not better than like linebackers and safeties, people would have been like, you're nuts. But that is simply the case. Now, when you have a great guard, it's no different than having a great any position. You want to keep the player, and that is Trey Smith. But he just got $70 million guaranteed. And more than likely, if he's healthy, and he doesn't have a major injury, his play is not going to drop off, and he is going to play for a while. And let's face it, one thing with the Chiefs right now is their tackle position last year was a question mark. And really it has been since they had the Mitchell Schwartz, Eric Fisher, almost a Jake Fisher, Eric Fisher combination. They've been trying to figure out how to fill the left tackle and right tackle positions, right? Last year or a couple years ago, they went after Trent Williams as a free agent. They thought they had him, and last minute the Niners came in. I mean, they have tried. And this year they drafted the Ohio State tackle, who I was actually watching when I was watching the Kelsey podcast with Matt Nagy. That's where Jason Kelsey mentioned, who clearly watches the offensive lineman for Howie every year, said, I think this guy's a freak show. Like, he is the closest thing I've seen in the last couple of years in terms of movement-wise to Jason Peters and Trent Williams. Now, injury-wise, we'll have to see how he responds, but if he is a healthy guy, like, that has a chance to really fulfill that offensive line. So we know they have an excellent guard. We know they have an excellent center. I think the BYU guy they drafted last year that they put out at tackle, I think ideally they might bump him into guard. And it wouldn't shock me at all if the Chiefs' offensive line, now this is not a new player for them, but I would imagine they're going to be better this year. And I think he's showing you their investment in the guards and the center position shows you how important it is to shore up the middle of the field. Because the Eagles are a great example. They get so much credit for investing in their offensive line. Well, think who they're paying, right? Obviously the two tackles, but they've invested heavily in the center and the guard position. And they went from having Jason Kelsey for a long period of time to what they have now. So I think it shows you that being comfortable with your guard and your center, your two guards and your center, but like you can't hesitate, because before it was like, we'll let this guy's going to get overpaid, we'll let him walk. Well, if he's a Pro Bowl level guy and you have a high price quarterback, I would keep him around. So very excited to tell you about my next partners, someone and something that hits home with me. My dad's brother was killed in Vietnam, and I saw the impact that it had not only on his parents, but on my father my entire life. Because there are moments when you get to make a real difference, and this is one of them. I want to tell you about Folds of Honor. They provide educational scholarships to spouses and children of fallen or disabled military members and first responders. Think about that for a second. Families who've lost everything or rebuilding their lives, and this organization steps in to make sure their kids can still go to college, or a spouse can get the training they need to keep moving forward. Since 2007, they've awarded nearly 62,000 scholarships. Last year, about 7,000 qualified students didn't receive funding. And this year, that number is expected to grow to nearly 10,000. So if you've been looking for a way to give back, to do something meaningful, this is it. Go to foldsofhonor.org. Give what you can. It all matters. Let's honor their sacrifice, educate their legacy, and unite around all those who serve. So the money that's getting doled out right now is pretty crazy. And that is why Scary Terry is going on local radio, is making comments. He's not happy because he's seeing the money get thrown around. And he's going, I've been on this team for a long time now. I have not missed a game in almost 5 years. So not only am I a good player, high character guy, I proved last year that the number one asset in this franchise, the quarterback, we mesh. Because last year, Scary Terry had 13 touchdowns. So it's like, if I'm going to give you, for the foreseeable future, 80-plus catches, and we know I'm going to be good for, with this guy, potentially 10-plus touchdowns every year, like we just saw what Garrett Wilson got. Now, I understand I'm a little bit older, but this is a position where I can easily thrive into my early 30s, and I'm 29 years old. And this is where I always understand these third contracts with, like, Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. We can argue, like, is this a good deal? Is it a smart deal with players like that? Derek Stingley, any young player. That is their second contract. That is the easiest contract to give when you have a Trey Smith, when you have a Pro Bowl level guy, when you have a guy who's been an All-Pro. It's like this. The third one is where you ask yourself, is this worth it? You know, especially at these premium positions. And that's what wide receiver is. It's not like Terry McLaurin just wants, a raise of 1 year. Like, he's going, see what Garrett Wilson got? Copy, paste that, and send it my way, and I'll sign it. And I'll see you. I don't know where their training camp is, Landover. I don't have a great feel for that area. But wherever they practice, I'll see you there. Day one, whatever the vets report. But make sure you send me that contract first. Like, you're just going to give me, like, oh, we'll give you $30 million more in guaranteed. No. I want that contract. That's what I'm worth. You see that? 13 touchdowns last year on a team that went to the NFC Championship game? The heartbeat of this team. And that's what Terry and TJ, while it's complicated for their organization, what you measure in terms of their intangibles is, a huge factor. And I think these teams, like these players and agents, I talked about this with Colin. It's the NFL's not the NBA, but players have never had more juice because they go, I see how much money's out there. And it's one thing, it's like, hey, we're talking like a $5 million difference. Once you start talking 50, 80, $100 million in real money, it's like, yeah, I'm never stepping foot on that practice field. This is not batting practice in Scottsdale in early March. This is football. And even in training camp, where this isn't the Junction Boys or Buddy Ryan versus Bill Parcells in the 80s, it's still like things happen. People get injured. People lose seasons. So I got to sign on the bottom line. There's just too much on the line, and I know how much these teams are generating now. So it's really become, I swear, and listen, maybe it's just memory loss, but throughout most of my youth, 90s, 2000s, there'd be a player or two that would be like, yeah, I'm not showing up to training camp. If you told me there were 10 players here over the next week that are like, I'm not showing up, I think that's more than believable. And not every guy is like some first ballot Hall of Famer. So I think this Washington situation, every time that one of these guys gets paid, even if they're different positions, if you're a guy like Terry McLaurin, if you're a guy like TJ Watt, if you're a guy like Trey Hendrickson, it's hard to get in your car day one of vets, show up with, your pillow and your video game, say, I'm here, ready to roll. I'm going to end on this. This story kind of made me laugh. I don't know who Bud Elliot is, but I like that name, Bud Elliot. Sometimes I think about names that would be good in movies. I was like, that'd be a good movie name. Like Johnny Utah, Bud Elliot. That's just a good name. I was thinking about Tin Cup the other day with Costner, and his name was Roy McAvoy. I mean, think how close that is to Rory McIlroy. And Roy McAvoy, that movie was made in 1996. Pretty sure Rory's like 35 years old, so he wouldn't even have been on the radar. But Roy McAvoy, that's a great movie name. But Bud Elliot of CBS believes that Shemar Stewart thinks he can return to school. Shemar Stewart, was the 17th overall draft pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, him and the team are at odds, right? All these second round picks want guaranteed money. He wants a bonus structure that previously, like the way, like the money's set, but he wants to be paid on certain dates. They're pushing back, and it's gotten pretty ugly. Like Trey Hendrickson, who's like, screw you. He basically said the same thing and left. I didn't know this until my guy Bud Elliot said that he has been training and working out with Texas A&M. And I don't know if he's told people around the program, but there is buzz. He thinks he can go back. Now, listen, I'm not a Bengal hater. I'm not rooting for the demise of this franchise, but that would be the funniest fucking thing that ever happened. I mean, it really would. And you go, well, eligibility. He's already. There is nothing more irrelevant right now than the NCAA. Every time you look, they're losing a lawsuit. I don't know why anyone listens to them for anything. I'm always stunned when it's like, yeah, we're suspending our coach to get ahead of the potential NCAA sanctions. I would bend over, spread my cheeks, and say, kiss my ass. So, listen, obviously, historically, you can't go to the draft and then just come back and play the season. But in this current climate, where the NCAA feels like a couple months away from folding, and no one needs them less than obviously college football, which is basically their own professional entity at this point, and definitely will be in the foreseeable future. Who would actually stop him from playing? Like, why would you care what they said? Now, I listen. Obviously, at this point, you get drafted 17th overall. I'm not saying he like should do this, but like it's clearly gotten pretty ugly. And at this point in time, like I don't know why they just throw that out there. But the Bengals have had a guy named Carson Palmer just quit on them. The Trey Hendrickson thing, like I understand both sides there. This one though, this one's got a chance to take the cake. If you told me right now, what am I rooting for? I would love like week one, Shemar Stewart runs out with the Aggies, and his NIL is whatever the equivalent of what his first year salary is. Like, yeah, he's making like $7 million, like $5 million, whatever the 17th pick makes. That'd be a trip. But yeah, man, the guy, the dude, Bud Elliot, thinks that Shemar Stewart uh, has a backup plan of playing for the Texas A&M Aggies in 2025. I mean, the SEC. It's always the SEC, baby.